Hi everyone and welcome to the Axopar stand here in Boat Dusseldorf. I actually ran into Stephen, a great Axopar owner, and let's go and sit down and have a talk on the Axopar 29. So welcome to follow our talk. So Steve, what Axopar are you riding?
Yeah, Jan-Erik, I bought last summer a 28 cabin with the twin V6s.
Yep.
And it was a terrific experience speccing the boat out. I think like many customers, I started by thinking I'll be selecting a few options less, and I've ended up with a pretty well-spec'd boat.
Okay.
Expecting to find that I maybe don't use all those options, but in fact, I think in the now 80 hours that we've been driving the boat.
Okay, that's quite a lot.
1,100 miles we've driven it.
Okay.
We've used most of those options, so
okay.
I'm very grateful to Sophie and Tom at AXOPAR London, because they really advised me well through the process of buying the boat.
Yeah, so they got the right boat for your need in that sense.
Totally, totally.
Very nice to hear. So in general, how do you use your boat? Where do you usually go boating?
The Axopar was our opportunity, my girlfriend and myself, to actually discover the south coast of the UK. The boat's based in the Solent, in Portsmouth, in Trafalgar Wharf, and we can pretty much go out from there in most weathers. In fact, the amazing thing is that I've found out it really doesn't matter what weather it is at the beginning of the day. Firstly, on the UK south coast, the weather's going to change. And secondly, the boat's going to deal with it.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Yeah, I've been boating on occasions outside of Leamington, for example. So usually on the Southampton Boat Show, I try to take a few days off or one day off and go boating in the south of UK. And one thing that always blows my mind is how fast the weather actually changes over there, and how fast you're actually getting some really decent swell, and how choppy it is in there.
Yeah.
So it's actually very interesting to see that this sort of a chop we actually also can get in Finland when we have a very windy conditions and blowing in between the islands. But your swell then combined with your swell, that's like an immense experience to be out when the swell is really great out there. It's really pounding.
Yeah, the Solent, with its extreme differences of depth, and the topography around the Solent means that, as you say, the wind doesn't have to change much, the tide moves, and then you have a completely different water.
Yeah.
And this again and again has caused us to come back from trips each time with more respect for our AVENTURINE, which it's just such a capable boat.
Oh, that's really, really nice to hear. That's actually one of the key features that actually started the whole Axopar story, is that we wanted to make one of the best handling boats for a 28-foot size. And that was the whole, let's say, philosophy of the boat started from the drivability and the ability to cut choppy seas in comfort and have a very dry running of the boat. And then after that, which then only after securing the hull and the drivability, we started looking into what sort of spaces can we get inside a hull that is shaped like this, made for driving in these sort of conditions.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to hear that you follow the Axopar philosophy, you understand what the product is all about, and happy to see that you're going out, and that's actually a pretty decent amount of hours you're putting in such a short time already. So you're really using the boat.
Yeah, as I think I mentioned, it's we got the boat in July, so we were looking at a short summer and a lot of winter ahead of us. And we were expecting that the winter would slow us down. Not at all. As I recently said to somebody, we've got a Scandinavian boat with a German heating system, and we've got a British attitude towards weather. It helps.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah, for sure. There are two things that I love doing with boats. Getting up early in the morning when there is nobody around, and that usually you can do even in the high seasons. You will be up and early, there will be no traffic, you will find the best locations you can. But in the winter, you can go anytime in winter and you will always be, by yourself in nature. There are not that many boaters out there in the winter, so you have all the nature for yourself.
Yeah, you've said, I think previously, that that this brand is an enabler for people, and that's the word that comes into my mind so often when we're out on the boat. That it's although I've been boating for most of my life, and I've boated in all sorts of places and with all sorts of machinery, this boat gives me the tools, and in a very light, compact package. To deal with all these situations. But let me now follow on from there.
Yeah.
Of course, I was impressed by the 28 all the way through. I'm impressed by the way the space is used. We find the space on the boat really useful. But now I've looked at the 29, and it's got more space, and it feels more generous. Can you tell me a little bit about how did you achieve that? And when did you start the process of doing the new boat?
So in a way, let's say it this way, every boat we do always will have a carryover for the next product we do, and that is not relevant to any size. So when we do a design work for a 45, we will always come up with cool ideas that you leave in store, that okay, let's do that then on the 37, or let's do that on the 22, or this worked out very well on the 22, let's take it for the 29. And that's actually how the bow area of the 29 came about, because we made a very successful and cozy and comfortable U-sofa on the 22. We took that footprint, moved it over to the bow of the 28 or the coming 29, and we also knew that the forward-looking bench on the 37 was also very well perceived, so we took that one as well. And then we just started playing that what needs to change in order for us to fit these two together, because this would be something extraordinary, being able to have 8 people sitting very comfortably on the bow area of a 29-footer without forgetting that this is an capable, bad, our all-weather boat. There are boats that are built for socializing, that are not really handling the chop, and they are uncomfortable, or they're dry. They are not running dry in bad weather. They are really wet, and you get you get the whole boat wet, and it's a very harsh ride when you go with them. So with this super straight bow and sharp attack angle of the bow that really cuts the waves, how can we make a seating for 8 people? And gradually, over I would say 2 years' time, we started to fiddle and play around with ideas that what would happen if we create a bigger bow flare, because our customers in the United States, they go in really adverse conditions out in the really remote locations outside and offshore of the coast. They want to have a safe boat that can take any sort of conditions. So we actually started to enlarge the bow flare on the boat. We raised the side profile of the hull a bit, but we only did this after we could secure that we are not going to be adding any weight to the construction if we do so. So we first needed to do a weight reduction program on the 28 to understand that how much can we increase volume on 29 without making the boat more heavier, because having a heavier boat means you need a bigger engine, you need bigger fuel tanks, you're going to be carrying a lot more weight, and the weight is also equal to cost. So more or less what we've been looking with the development of the 29 is not only, it's more of everything, and when it comes to that, it's also for us, how can we make a boat more efficient? How can we make the repeated modular constructions in a way faster way that also reduces weight and also reduces waste, because also waste is actually a loss of money or added cost. So these were the things that we just needed to go like an iteration round before we can start playing around with the functionality. And as I said, first was the drivability, securing that, and then after that the social spaces can come. So in 10 years, we've grown the knowledge. This is what we can do. Now we can show it to you on the 29, but it also came with the request of having an overnight capability on the 28 without having the master aft cabin. And that was also a very interesting question for us to play with, that how can we make that, the very comfortable and very well found toilet compartment and storage compartment on the 28, how can we make more out of that? So it started as let's make a bigger storage area. because people still want that storage area in the bow. You come in with a lot of baggage and you just want to throw it. You don't want to take it inside of the boat in that self, so you want to have outer access, and that's why we kept also the access still from the outside for the front multi-cabin. And then over time, we actually just started to play with, okay, what happens now when we raise the sides of the hull a bit? We created a bit more ball flare. What if we raise the floor a bit? And then gradually, one by one, you come into, we can actually make this a well-functioning, temporary overnighting for 2 persons as one like standard part of the boat in a way. And that's how we go gradually from the bow into the cockpit area, into the social seating area, into the aft. So all of these are done in sections, and we're just trying to maximize everything out of it.
So it was as a process that was going on parallel and including the development of the other boat.
Yes, for sure. The 45 was alongside with the 29. At the time, we just finalized the 22 and the 25 when we started looking at the 29. So all these solutions that we did not take for the 45 or we did not do on the 22, we could take and evolve these ideas and make them work on the 29. It's a bit of a hassle, or you need to be focused in a way, but it's also because of these 10 years, we have such a great team today that knows our boats, and we are able to just, make an experience more intense on any single part we do on the boat right now. And we all do this for a purpose. And in a way, our design philosophy is that when we don't change anything that is working just for fun, so we really want to keep the best functioning bits of a boat, but we are also not the kind of guys that keep out development, so that when we see that there is pure improvement, we really want to push it through immediately, get it availability to our customers for them to enjoy.
Yeah, an interesting little anecdote to the development of the boat. I remember the first sneak side view, which was a black side view, and it looked tall.
Yep.
And my first discussion with a fellow 28 owner was, I said, somehow something went wrong in the print. No way is that boat going to be that much taller than the current hull.
Yep.
And I said, they're definitely going to, the real boat's going to be lower than that. And I was so surprised when the first proper image came, and I thought, no, it is exactly that.
Yes.
But it's very well hidden in the design, so that this extra volume that the boat has got does not affect that.
No.
My question is, one of the things that you very often mentioned with the 28 was the low center of gravity.
Yes.
Have you managed to maintain that?
We've managed to do exactly those things that we did not want to change. So the low center of gravity of the 28 is still following with the 29 100%. So the floor level or the deck level of the boat has actually not changed at all. But what we actually did, that we wanted to create a bit higher cabin. But usually when you do pretty much a utilitarian, it's a functional boat, the 29 cross cabin.
Yeah.
We did not want it to look functional or let's say this sort of a tugboat approach. So we wanted it to have like a new design, a more confident stance and attitude. So raising the roof line is the first that actually kills any sort of sportiness.
Yeah.
So what we actually needed to do, and this is where we really go into the tweaking, if you have a look at the fender boxes, for example, these were now elongated on the 29 to take out the height of the boat by making the hull also not only under the waterline different, but also above the waterline different. So in that sense, lengthening the profile of the hull makes also the roof look like it's not that much raised.
Yeah.
And changing the angle of the roof so that it has this small attack forward lean makes it look a bit more confident, like it's going fast when it's at standstill.
And that was something you learned from the 37.
Yes,
37. The 37 already has that,
and
right?
going with the 45s, and then playing around with, okay, what could a Brabus concept sometimes look like, and just going crazy with the drawings, and then taking ideas over from these, the concept drawings, I mean, not the actual products you see. We have a lot of concept drawings in our hidden black book.
Yeah.
But taking these sort of design ideas and just incorporating them into the 29.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you have so many more ideas that you can turn into reality. And as you said, you choose the right boat and the right time to do so?
The 28, so this is our 10th year anniversary, and Axopar 28 made this company. Our customers made our company. That's the first gratitude. So for any customer buying the Axopar 28, those are the people we want to thank for making this company the company it is today. But it also is in a way a way of a debt towards them that we actually want to improve the boats.
Yeah.
And that's why we came up with the 29 as a part of the 10th year anniversary, because this is where everything started, and this is more or less to us, we want to revolutionize the adventure boating industry once more with the new 29.
I want to ask you another question about the engineering about the boat, but just briefly, you mentioned the customers, and obviously the dealers are equally as important. I just wanted to tell a little story which comes from the fact that back in 2014, I think September 2014, at the Friedrichshafen Boat Show on Lake Constance, was the first time I saw an Axopar, the very first 28 Mark I. And it was Patrick Polsch's stand.
Okay.
And I walked down this aisleway, a long, narrow aisleway, and walked past this boat. And there were a lot of people. So I saw the front of the boat and thought, that's interesting, that really low hull, which now looks spectacularly low. Yeah, the boats have got higher for good reason.
Yeah.
And then I kept walking, and then I saw this pilot house, and I thought, wait a minute, that wasn't the same boat, was it? I was distracted, and I thought, wow, it was. It's one boat that has got these two contrary characteristics on them. And then I stopped, and I stood there for a few minutes until the people cleared, saw the whole boat, and thought, that's beautiful straight away. Yeah. I got the boat straight away. Now the thing is, I just want to say that was 2014. I spoke to Patrick at the time. Already his enthusiasm was addictive, but a year later he took me out on one. So we're talking about 2015. Okay. We're now in 2023, and I got end of 22. I got to the point where everything for me was in one line. I had the place that was perfect for a 28, south coast of Britain. It's a new place for me to boat, and I thought, I know exactly the boat that I need for it. Cool. And it's just interesting maybe to give you the feedback that sometimes it takes 8-9 years for a customer to go through that process. And whether it's the case of he's set his eyes on a boat, whether it's a 28 or a 37 or whatever, and he has to save up for it, or it's just that he has to find
the time,
the right situation. I could not imagine a better boat for where we are boating right now. But now I just want to ask you the question about the technology. I've got the twin V6s, the 200s on the boat, and I absolutely love it. I tested a 300 and I loved it as well, but I thought
the punch on the twin engines is,
and a little bit of background experience with boats, a previous twin engine boat, I just knew how much, that little bit more that the twin's going to give me. Now it gets confusing because we've now got V10
350s,
torque-rich V10s. Tell me about your experience so far of what the 29 runs best with.
So if you ask me, my own personal favorite will be the single engine V10 350 horsepower, just because of all the mentioning of the torque. Also with the dual engine is that you're getting a much more grunt and acceleration, but the V10s are there to back it up. So they are very close in that. But now with the V10s and comparing it with the double V6s, the sound element inside of the boat is so much more relaxed with the V10 than with the dual V6s. At some points, twin engines start droning a bit against each other, and that creates a bit more aggressive sound. Some like it, some want to have them more comfortable and silent. So in that sense, then the V10s is perfect for them. When it comes down to performance, actually we can use on the 29 the same engine sizes with a bit less fuel and with a bit higher top speed than on the 28. So that's a part of the fuel efficiency of the 30% more efficient hull. I'm not talking 30% equal to 30% less fuel, because the boat is bigger, a bit heavier, and more windage, but you're still able to take a 300 horsepower V8 engine, run it for 0.1, 0.2 liters less nautical mile consumption, or run the boat 1 to 2 knots higher top speed than the 28 on a bigger boat. So my preference, V10 350 for sure.
Well, that's a clear word, and I'm sure we're going to be really enthusiastic to see those boats being tested and
for sure,
see what numbers they produce. But combined with the 400-litre tank,
yes, now you're getting 200.
That makes for a really good range.
Yes, so now you have plus 200 nautical miles of range. So in that sense, there is no, let's say, anxiety of driving longer distances with the 29 because of the new hull, the new design, the more space, and now the longer range. You know, you can really go adventuring further. Coming back to your comments about the Axopar and your time it took until you became an Axoparian is actually something that also to me is really, I love to hear that, because I've been telling a lot of people, salespeople, that sometimes are a bit probably anxious of getting a sale, and I will just saying them that relax. If we make great products, and we have good marketing, and we take care of the customers over and over boat shows, eventually we will become stronger and stronger as a brand. And it's just about, as you said, sometimes it's not the right time for you, or you're not in the right, you don't have the time to do this whole hobby or going into boating, but having the dream and the drive, that is something that I see today more and more. And I've been so happy to see, let's say, this sort of glare in people's eyes when they come to the Axopar stand now. 10 years ago, people really, either you loved the Axopar or you hated it. And people were not really aware of this type of boats at all. Now with so many other brands emulating and trying to get their share of the adventure boating that we were part of building from scratch, we're seeing now that it's also creating more interest from other people and other clientele, and we're so happy to see that people are moving gradually into this sort of adventure boating.
Yeah, the plumb bow type of design 10 years ago was very rare. I think the only one that anybody interested in boats would have known would be the Wally yacht, which really was a cat amongst the pigeons in the luxury yacht business.
Or if you were a sailor, then you would know the old plumb bow from the old sailing yacht. So that's more or less, and that's actually probably one of the reasons why we have so many sailors around the world driving Axopars as their motorboats. So that's very nice to see as well.
Yeah. And I must say, I mean, I've taken videos of friends driving Axopars next to me, and I just love the way the boat looks when it's like doing 30 knots along the water. It
has its own stance in there. It has its own attitude, right?
It says efficiency. It says efficiency, even though, as most people who see the boat for the first time, they think, how can it be efficient with a windscreen like that? Yeah. Once you're on there and you feel what the wind does when you open a door. This is also an interesting thing on the 28, and I'll be interested how it is with the 29. You open the doors when you're on the move at 30 knots. You don't have any buffeting. No. You open the roof, and in most combinations, you have a better aerodynamic situation than you do in many cabriolets. So it just works. It's a good formula.
It's getting the air inside. Creates this sort of open boating sensation, and that's why so many people, and that's why have actually ended up buying cabin boats in very hot climate countries because of the optionality and the possibility to open up the roof and open up the doors and really get the air inside of the cabin.
Yeah. Now I'll ask a slightly critical question, which is on the 28, I use the trim tabs a lot. Now I have a fuel consumption, a seasonal fuel consumption after, as I say, 80 hours. I've got a seasonal fuel consumption of 24 litres an hour. That's not what I'm doing when I'm running at a set speed. That's how much in the whole season I have used fuel in comparison. So 24 litres, and I'm really happy with that. That's good boating value in my opinion. But I use the tabs a lot, and I do think, and I'm using them because I'm trying to take advantage of the cutting bow,
Yes.
or I'm correcting because of crosswind, which
Yes.
is the same in
Yes.
any boat.
Yes.
Will the 29 need as much tab?
The 29 will be probably what the amount I've been driving with the 29, with actually the twin 200s. I would say that in the use of trim tabs, you will be finding yourself pretty comfortably within the same range and the same functionality of the 29. Remember that we also now have a bit more windage with the raised profile of the boat, but we also have a bit better stability of the hull. So these two counter each other, but when it's windy, you will still want to be adjusting a bit with the trim tabs for the lean.
Yeah.
And that is something that we can't really change the physics, laws of physics in here, but we can try to make a hull that works and wants to stabilize itself and run neutral as much as possible. And that is something that has happened with the 29.
Yeah, I mean the 28, this extreme combination of the ultra narrow bow with an extremely wide transom,
Yep.
I feel is one of the reasons that this boat, it's almost, to me, it's a party trick, in as much as I take people on board who have never been on a boat before.
Yeah.
And I know how people have reacted to other boats I've owned. And you have to think about how you're going to maneuver, at which speed,
Yep.
whether you're going to take chop, whether
Yep.
you're going to cut the chop at an angle and so on.
Yep.
And the interesting thing is, the one thing that the 28 already does, it doesn't get into these awkward situations where it's going from one chine to the other.
No.
Because of this wide transom.
That's one part, and then also secondly is because of the stepped hull. So the way we created the stepped hull combined with the low center of gravity actually means that the boats really want to have a neutral stance, and that also will counter all these sort of, so the boat actually becomes pretty predictive. It does not do anything surprising to you, so you feel, and your passengers will feel very comfortable on board, even when you're driving in very challenging conditions.
Every time I've done a trip over the Isle of Wight, taken a friend out for lunch, as I say, somebody who's never been on a boat even.
Yep.
I usually drive out myself to show them a little bit and give them time to get used to the idea of the boat. And when I see that they're comfortable, the return trip, I put them behind the wheel.
Yes.
And I don't say very much. I say, well, I'll just look after the tabs.
Yep.
But I say, you choose your speed where you feel comfortable, yeah? The active trim's going to look after the trim anyway, and
Yes.
it does very well. I've set
Yes.
it up well. And I let them drive.
Yes.
And you can see from mile to mile how they smooth into it really quickly.
Yep.
I've never experienced that on any of the other boats I've had.
I'm so happy to hear that you're saying these things, because driving an Axopar, looking at a boat on a boat show is one thing. Driving a boat in real life conditions, that's a whole other story. And a lot of customers usually, unfortunately, end up buying boats on a boat show without driving them. And on an Axopar, usually when we're selling the boat, like closing the deal, that's with the sea trial, because that's where we really set apart for so many other boats out there on the market today. And to me, boating is all about driving.
Yeah.
So that's like having minimum half of the experience of going out on the water is from the driving. And I'm so happy to see that and hear that you're feeling the same philosophy in here. And that's actually something that we really wanted to create with the introduction of the 28, and that was one of the driving figures when we actually started doing the first drawings for the 28 in 2012.
In 2012, so you
Yeah.
didn't take long to do the 28 either.
No.
Was this a boat that had been in your head for a while before that?
Well, we've done some brands in the past,
Yeah.
so of course you always learn the good things and the bad things. And with the whole Axopar concept, we just said to ourselves, let's focus on the good things. Let's take all the good things that we've accrued in terms of knowledge. Let's make those things happen, and all the errors and mistakes we've done, let's take learning from those, and let's at least let's not make them as much as you usually do when you're setting up a new company. So that was the whole design and functionality philosophy of Axopar going forward.
Yeah, I mean, form follows function is a common used phrase, and it makes sense on an Axopar.
Yes.
But people tend to forget that if you only address the function, and the form literally has to do what the function says, you still don't produce a great design.
No.
It's the harmony
that
is
flow.
created, the balance.
Yes, it's a flow. And that is what I say even to the new designers joining Axopar team, is just walk around the boat. And if you're able to walk around the boat and it just feels fluent, then you know you have a good design. It's hard to say this on a camera, how this feels, but once you're on board, and the really funny thing is, it's not the first time you're on board, it's probably the 5th, 8th, 10th, 15th, 50th time you're still going on board and you're going, this actually works, and this is actually why they made it this way, because in this condition it's going to be doing something. So it's just moving around the boat, storing something, all needs to have a function, and it's made there for a purpose. And with the 29, all of this has been tweaked in every single area.
I'm looking forward to getting out on a 29 and being able to compare the characteristics. But what I
that we need to set you up with Sunseeker London Group for sure, so that you would be a great ambassador of doing a full-on comparison between the 28 and the 29 and how you feel the difference is there.
I'm sure Sophie and Tom are already worried about my next emails with them.
That's so good.
Anyway, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It's been really interesting what you've had to tell us, and I've really enjoyed it. The stand is, as ever, really good. Dusseldorf is an amazing show.
Yeah, Dusseldorf is, it's the main show for us of the year. It's the kickoff of the season for 100%. And also I'm loving to see so many AXOPARIANs coming on the booth and just looking and breathing the air of adventure. So for that, super grateful to see how the industry has changed and how people's perception on boats are also gradually changing from a very traditional design in the past to this more of a modern adventuristic functionality type of boating.
Totally. I'm feeling homesick for my AVENTURINE already. I need to get back out on her. She hasn't been out in the water for nearly a week now.
Oh, okay.
So
she's waiting. My pleasure having you on board, and I hope everybody is enjoying the talks and the insights. I really appreciate all your insights and all your feedback and input. So always happy to meet a fellow AXOPARIAN and always loving the feedback.
Janne, thank you very much.
My pleasure.